Hey, thanks for joining us here on Redmen TV. We're going to dive into a debate show topic here, looking at how Liverpool rebuild their midfield in the coming transfer windows. Great show from this week's debate show. 3 debates, 3 guests, no holds barred each week over on redmenplus.com. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, right, okay, let's move it on. Steve, like, I need you to explain your concept of what you're doing here.
So, summer transfer window arrives next summer. Us three have found ourselves the new transfer committee for the football club. Okay, the lay of the land is this: James Milner's contract's ended and he's gone to play lower league football for a last season before he comes into coaching, whether it be with Liverpool or not, who knows. Jordan Henderson has assumed the James Milner role in the squad, the senior midfielder, which at the moment means he's probably going to play 50 games a season, which is not really what we wanted. We're gonna all find midfielders to build up our midfield. So when you bring them in, they will be at the expense of our current midfield. The only player I'm going to give license to not be included is Carvalho, because he can play in the front three as well. Okay. So he's out of the equation. So when we replace them, the people who are playing in their positions at the moment will not necessarily stay at the club. So we're building a midfield for 5 to 10 years. Liverpool's midfield, well documented, needs some energy. So we'll come to each of us with a nomination that you think should be forming part of Liverpool's midfield going forward. I'm going to dive in straight away and get the obvious answer that you move heaven and earth for Jude Bellingham. It's like your number one absolute priority. And this stems because the wider point of, I think what Liverpool need to do is look at what Real Madrid have just done. And I think you need to keep Fabinho, Thiago and Henderson and have them, try and where they're still playing as much football as they can, as much as their fitness and ability will allow them to keep their place. If someone rises up, if Harvey Elliott just nails down that right side midfield today, then Jordan Henderson will see his game time reduced. He becomes the understudy for Harvey and the understudy for Fabinho, say. But what they've got to look at is, it's like, who's your Camavinga and who's your Tchouaméni? And beyond, like is it Valverde? You got some minutes or whatever. I'm not 100% over beyond that, but Camavinga was the good example of that last season where they had the old guard, and then all of a sudden they've got ready-made lads who are chomping at the bit, who are ready to step up into those sorts of shoes. Liverpool's model needs to be looking at footballers aged between 21 and 24. I know Jude Bellingham doesn't fall into that, but he's an exception because he's an exceptional talent. I want at least one lad who's nailed on, ready-made, about to enter into the prime of his career, and then another lad who's unequivocally a brilliant talent who's going to develop into the. So one of us. Sorry to interrupt, but we want to point your attention towards the Last Fan Standing show over on the Bet Victor YouTube channel. I was over there. Great debates this week, including why is Graham Potter at Chelsea, and I was baited heavily on the future of Jurgen Klopp as well. I think I defended myself as good as possible. Here's a little clip from that.
I don't think Klopp should be expected to compete with City. So you can kind of say he's overachieved with what he's kind of been given at Liverpool, and I agree with that. But I just feel like once you've got that coach in that time period and the opportunity presents itself, I think you kind of got to back him. And I feel like there have been times over the last few years where maybe that extra signing or maybe that
he's back. Like he's had Liverpool made 3
Darwin Núñez,
signings.
Fair enough, was a lot of money. But
so was Van Dijk.
They've still got yeah, but there's a big gap between. I don't know why I'm defending Liverpool here, but like if you look at the midfield, you got Milner and Henderson still in there. Look, Henderson, give him some respect. I think he deserves it. His spot in the team at some point, but Milner shouldn't still be playing for Liverpool on a regular basis.
No.
When he's in the midfield, people are rubbing their hands together. You shouldn't be signing Arthur on the last day of the transfer. Like nobody really wants Arthur.
No,
you think Jurgen Klopp thought Arthur was my first choice? I guaranteed there's a couple of players in there above him. I feel like the manager should be given the best resources. And from the outside looking in, I just feel like, I'm kind of glad they haven't backed this manager because
do you know what it is?
Jurgen Klopp, they have someone who's the best, arguably the best in the world.
Yes, make sure you head over to the Bet Victor YouTube channel, drop a like on there, leave a comment, go and support me. Just say Paul is right and he's boss. And I think everything about Liverpool is better than everything about Man United and Adam McCullough. Why not? Anyway, start on with the show.
I was always going to pick Bellingham, it was obvious. So as part of the conversation in the transfer committee then, and the tactics going forward, what role would you give Bellingham in the side? Would you change the shape and slight tactical formation, or would you stick with what we've been working with because that's key to that player?
Honest answer is, I think it depends what you. Right. I'm here going Jude Bellingham defo. I don't know whether he's the new Jordan Henderson or the new Thiago, or he's a bit of both. Or maybe he's just, is he the player that we wanted Naby Keita to be? But he's so. My suspicion is he's an upgrade to Jordan Henderson. So he's a 6 foot plus, all around, all energy, box to box, but he's got a bit more finesse and a bit more skill and a bit more of an eye for goal, a bit more direct runner with the ball. So I would say that. But I think we need. Can he do? I don't know. Can he also do a bit of a beat? I honestly answer, mate, I don't know.
They played him in a double pivot. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. They played him in a double pivot at the weekend, and it didn't really work.
Yeah,
Dortmund. So my view of him is he's a slightly further forward midfielder, which is why I asked the tactical question.
Yeah.
I know Steve disagrees. We've had this conversation. I'd go for Neves from Wolves.
Okay.
I just think Fabinho needs a bit of competition now. He needs a bit of rest. I think he's playing too many games. I think we bring someone in who not so much challenges him, but when we do need to play a double pivot, he can play it well. I think Neves and Fabinho will be great as a double pivot together when we need that. Premiership proven. I don't think he's going to cost the earth because of what he's got left on his contract. So yeah, Neves from Wolves for me.
Thoughts on that?
I don't know that. Chris has been a big exponent to this. Is that it depends whether we're tactically shifting what we do. So if we're going to more of a double pivot and we're going to more of a 10, which I just don't think we'll do. Honestly, I think what we still want, what we're trying to do, is we want what Jurgen Klopp wants. Is he wants Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum and James Milner as his midfield, but not really. What he wants is better versions of them three, and what they are and what they represented was all heart, all desire, all action, energy, physicality, fight and die for the team. Don't lose the ball. Great in small spaces. What they lacked was a bit of creativity, guile, passing range, and goals. And casually they've been trying to keep that as the core and add that on top. And so I think everything we do is geared around that. So Fabinho is meant to do everything Jordan Henderson does, but he's a bit more solid defensively, and actually scores a few goals as well, and he's taller. So he's threats in both. He's a threat in their box. He's more security in our box, and yeah, he provides that stability, and he actually percentage wise means you can maybe take 10% off the defensive responsibilities of the two guys in front, which then adds to 10% creativity. We brought Naby Keita in to try and do a better version of Gini Wijnaldum. That didn't work. We brought Thiago in to do that, and that has been a success in terms of when he's on the pitch. He is an improvement on that. The Jordan Henderson thing is the big question mark. So on the Neves thing, along with the answer I appreciate, can he keep the door shut? And I don't know that he can. I fear he's a bit of a luxury. Like he'll try and score your bangers from 35 yards. But is he going to cut passing lanes off?
I think what he's good at is he's good as your elastic tackles and stuff. He's very much a honcho type player. He throws himself in front of anything, using any part of his body. From what I've seen from Neves when I've watched him, I think Klopp would make him into a better player as well. I think Klopp would make him into the player I think he's got the potential to be. I think he's stagnating a little bit now at Wolves. I think he needs to move. I think a move this summer would have been perfect for him. But I'm just a big fan of the player. And I was surprised he went to Wolves, and I wanted him when he was at Porto.
Yeah.
For me, he's great at controlling the game. He's good on the ball. If you have any energy at all against Wolves, you can get at him because he's very one-paced. What we're crying out for at the moment, or lots of the fans are, is a little bit more athleticism, and then Jude Bellingham, you get that in abundance. You don't get it from Neves. I think you can run past Neves, and I think that's when we get in trouble, when they get the wrong side of our midfield.
Yeah, and this is not necessarily names per se, but Liverpool, and this is the slight concern over people like Elliott and Carvalho, is you go down this route when you're trying to add technique, you lose something, and you often lose physicality because there's more small technical lads than there are big technical lads, and that's why Jude Bellingham is an absolute that's why he's a heaven and earth kind of footballer, because he's over 6 foot and he's brilliant on the ball and he's got the whole package. Like everyone was after Yaya Tourés and people love Steven Gerrards and these kind of lads, is because you need to you run the risk of upsetting things when lads can just be beaten in the air. You want to be a dominant team, but these players cost loads of money. I think if Elliott's going to be the answer, then the other midfielders have got to both be over 6 foot, I think, because I think if you start to continue to have sub 6 foot footballers in your team, then slowly you're chipping away at your defensive stability as well. You become weaker from set plays. It becomes harder for you to play more direct football when you need, you're not scoring as many goals from headed situations and that kind of thing. I know that's a bit of an oversimplification, because obviously Jota's great in the air, but ultimately there comes a point where if two people have got equally good heading attributes, but one of them's got half a foot on the other one, the one with half a foot's gonna win. Typically, win that battle. So that's where that again. With that, I'm not going as much detail because honestly I don't really know the answer to the names. But Liverpool's new midfield can't lose. We've got to be careful, and which is why I think Liverpool are being careful in the transfer market. But you've either if you're going to be technically gifted and less than 6 foot tall, you've got to be generationally talented like Thiago. So that's the drift. That's
Thiago's
Thiago's
a player that the opposition say, I've just played against Thiago, that was an education. In years to come, Bellingham will be a player that will be, wow, we're playing Jude Bellingham today. This is a test for me. I want to see what I can do. Yeah. Neves is it's Neves for me. That's how I feel about that. Yeah. So I'd hoped you'd sort of think of someone. This was carte blanche, could have had anybody, and you came and you picked Neves, and I understand why you did, because of the Premier League thing, and he gets and understands what we do. He doesn't improve Liverpool's midfield for me, as things are. Yeah. And my choice would be based on what I've seen of him, and certainly in the Champions League line. I thought Valverde is Jordan Henderson, but 10 years ago. He played on that right-hand side. He snuffed out the left-hand side. Him and Carvalho did a really good job on our left-hand side in the Champions League final. And he had enough about him to get forward. Cross comes shot, leads to the winning goal. He's got all of the attributes that a Jurgen Klopp player would ever have. He's a centre midfielder that's been moved slightly to the right, so he's got a good appreciation of when to go and when to sit. Mm-hmm. It's like watching just a younger, brighter version of Jordan Henderson with a bit more ability in terms of creativity as well. Yeah. Henderson's got some you can play Henderson bingo, can't you, with the types of passes that he does. Mm-hmm. Play it back, chops it into the box. Valverde's got a little bit more to his game than Henderson in terms of in the final third in the opposite half. And there's rumours going round, and there are rumours that we asked about him in the transfer window.
Well, I some of this is going to be determined as well, I think, by what happens development-wise to a couple of players this season. Obviously, as you say, look, Milner's going to go, Oxlade-Chamberlain's going to go, and almost certainly Keita's going to go. So there's 3 lads who we're clearly budgeted for who are in that thing. And look, we bought Mello in, but he's probably, at the moment it looks like he's going to go. If he has a good season, then maybe they'll consider it. Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones and Fabio Carvalho, what they do this season is going to be huge. And actually Curtis Jones is a big one, because everything I've talked about he possesses. He's 6 foot, he's got great skill, he's great at carrying the ball, he doesn't lose possession. If he can add consistency, and by consistency it's just like, it's such a consistency in decision making sometimes, you know what I mean, just knowing when to hold it, when you're right to hold the ball, when you're right to take that extra touch. I'm dead excited by him every time he gets on the field, because I look at that and we've seen so many lads come through the ranks in Liverpool, as potential midfielders, and they might be quite good. You think about like Cam Brannigan was good on the ball, but he was too small, not enough pace. Think about Jordan Rossiter, who again quite technically proficient, good footballer, but he was too small. John Welsh too small. Jay Spearman didn't have enough technical attributes and was too small. Kurt is potential. For me, he's like Steve McManaman reborn, but with a bit more I don't know, he's a bit more of a battler than McManaman. He doesn't float through games the way McManaman did. If he can just put an extra few pounds of muscle on and just get that level of focus right, then he actually fits the mould of what we're looking to buy in the summer. So he maybe takes one of those options away. I think we need one nailed on footballer, one who's just better than what we've got, who's better than Jordan Henderson, who's in the same bracket of ability as Thiago and Fabinho. You go, right, you're starting games of football, and then one or two, you can afford to have another project or two. Maybe.
So with that, no offence, but two of the three names that we've mentioned in our little section here are exactly that.
Yeah,
better than what we've currently got. No. I don't think Neves is, to be fair. I think Neves is a squad player that comes in and helps you fill body rotation for bodies. We kind of need reinvention is a watchword that Klopp used. We kind of need to reinvent the bodies in there and what they do, and go, like Paul says, keep the physical attributes and go with a bit of extra quality. Yeah,
no, it is. But I can. This is why I say I can appreciate the difficulties in it all, because I heard someone said on another podcast, like, Liverpool don't take punts on like Andy Robertsons and Matips and I can't remember the examples were, but Shaqiri's and stuff anymore. And it gets, people fail to recognise, I think, that when you're on the climb, you can take punts on players because your squad's not that good. You're not actually that good at football, all told. So it actually, when you're paying £5 million or whatever for Andy Robertson, he's only going to be better than Alberto Moreno. Whereas if you're then trying to go another one like that, he's got to be better than Andy Robertson, who's the best left back in the world. All of a sudden, and I know he comes from that, and we help develop him into that. But they're the margins now. Is that if you're not careful, you buy those lads in, and they're just mediocre. And if you get a couple too many of them in your squad, all of a sudden, even if they're not getting in your team, they're actually lowering the quality in training. Yeah. Which is in turn having a damaging impact on your best players, because they're not being sharpened against lads of equal or greater quality, and that becomes a bit of a cancer that's hard to pick out of your squad. So yeah, which is why I have a little bit of sympathy for the people who are conducting Liverpool's transfer business, because you must be terrified of getting that wrong. Because it's very easy now to pay £50 million for a very average footballer, and £50 million is, you spend £50 million and get it wrong. That's a harder thing for Liverpool to swallow.
We can't do it. We spend that amount of money on a player, and we have to work to get it right. Like we worked with Divock Origi to make Divock Origi work. A lot of other clubs, he would have been moved on 18 months later, but we couldn't do that.
We're kind of going against the sort of well-trodden path of the teams at the top. When you get to the top table, you look at the top table next to you and you think, who on that top table would like to come and sit with us? And we're not really doing that realistically with every signing, and that's why there's a frustration amongst the fans that we're not going buying other teams' crown jewels to add to our crown jewels.
Yeah, and Thiago was a bit of a change in approach in that 100%. Regard. To go and get one of the best players from one of your top European club rivals sent a big message, and I don't think it's something that Liverpool are going to do. It was a unique situation that they pounced upon. But yeah, I think, look, like Diaz and Jota are great examples of, I think, where we the transfer part, and well, that Kanate, Chimikas as well. Actually, we're still making some good moves. We just need some midfield equivalents of all those. Who are the lads ready to make that step up? Who's about to have their breakout season? Who can we go and find? I still find it a bit mad. I thought Tielemans would have been on that list. I genuinely did. I've been so impressed by him at Leicester. But when his name's been raised this summer, I've seen a lot of people go, no, I'm not sure. Yeah, and you're probably right, because at the value that he was being touted at, there must be something that doesn't fit for Liverpool not to even have, not to have a
could it be that since he's made it common knowledge he wants to move, that his performances have suffered, and there's a documented clip of this season where it looks like he's running in sand trying to track back, and
well, he fit our team perfectly at the minute, wouldn't he? That's
the end of that conversation there.
No,
cheers, Paul.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, no, I know. You're probably right, because we the unknowable X factor is Jurgen Klopp looking them in the white of the eyes and going like, are you the man? Are you the man who's going to be, who's going to run through brick walls and going to do all this? And if he doesn't like the answer, Liverpool don't buy don't buy the
It's like a
footballers.
neon arrow above Tielemans' head every time he plays. It says it's me. I don't think there is at the moment. I think he's allowed his situation to get the better of him, and it's affected his performances.
Yeah, I just actually thought it was quite interesting. Just while we were talking, I went on FB Ref, and they've got like similar players. They rate similar players alongside certain footballers. Jordan Henderson's is wild. 10 players they think similar to Jordan Henderson in the last 365 days. Number 1, Granit Xhaka. Number 2, Matteo Guendouzi. He's a mad one. I thought he was such a talent when he first signed for ours. Yeah, no, he's a nutcase, isn't he? Renato Sanchez. Who's currently PSG, I didn't know that. Luka Modric, Hakan Calhanoglu, Sergi Idade, I've not heard of, Federico Valverde, as mentioned there by Steve, Alfred Duncan at Fiorentina, Daniel Parejo at Villarreal, and Fabian Ruiz Peña at Paris Saint-Germain as well. I couldn't attest to no half.
The last one moved from Napoli in the summer. He was touted to go to big things, and he got his big move.
In regards to Fabinho, so they're saying number 1, Sergio Busquets, Boubacar Kamara at Aston Villa, Pablo Rosario at Nice, João Moutinho at Wolves, Djibril Sow at Eintracht Frankfurt, Declan Rice at West Ham. Now Declan Rice he'll end up at Chelsea, almost certainly, because now Potter's there as well. But that just feels like the match made in heaven for him to go pick up another English lad. But Chris said this, I think he gets a bit overhyped.
Yeah.
But as far as like a lad who can come and play DM, I'd be made up with Declan Rice to come in and be in rotation.
Would you be made up with 120 million? That's the question, because that's what it's going to take, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. Hopefully if West Ham are shite this season, I'll knock a bit off that. Manuel Locatelli at Juventus, Bentancur at Tottenham Hotspur, Brozovic at Internazionale, and Jonas Martin from Lille as well, are the other lads who've got rated as Fabinho similar, or Fabinho analogues. Let's have a little look at Thiago's then before we can kind of move on or whatever. Interesting this, yeah. It's got Aurelien Tchouameni. No shock there. Liverpool were having a little sniff around that. Fabian Ruiz Peña again. Anguissa at Napoli. We've all seen that firsthand. N'Golo Kante, Joshua Kimmich, Tanguy Ndombele. Interesting shout there. Ismail Benacer from Milan. Idrissa Gana Gay at Everton. Wow, would not have said that. No. Enzo Lafay at Lorient, and Yuri Tielemans at Leicester City. According to FB Ref, not according to me. Don't know if there's any of those names that crop up to people there who are watching at home. Is any of them you'd be thinking, yeah, they would be in my transfer committee shouts. Danny M in the club legend saying just blow the budget on Bellingham and Pedri. And also says Rice is this era's Frank Lampard, West Ham to Chelsea. Yeah, I think that's a...
Do you know what Pedri's release clause is? Next to a billion euros.
Well, there's a couple. Who's the other ones that they've got? There's
Gavi hasn't signed his contract yet. So that's apparently, if you believe what's said, we did put an offer to him. Yeah. He's a good player.
They're the ones that, like, again, Liverpool's kind of sniffing round. If you could steal one of those lads, that be magic if they do that. Danny M also says, I agree with Paul, Jude is a must. We have Harvey and Fabio, so we need someone who's a little bit older and experienced to come in and play in our midfield, so Jude fits that. I think, pretty sure he's the same age as them, right? Maybe slightly older. We also need someone like Tielemans, as he would do a decent job in a genie role, and we've been crying out for that replacement. He also has Premier League experience. He says, I don't like Neves personally. What's he done to you? Alcuma says Lema would be a good option in January, especially to replace Keita. I think the talk is that he's going to go to Bayern, isn't it? Because Liverpool did ask the question.
Conrad Lima, yeah, but his heart set on. He's out of contract in the summer. Yeah. His heart set on that. Top presser in the Bundesliga, bar nobody, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, again, by all accounts, Liverpool did go and ask the question of him at the end of the window, and it wasn't a possible deal. So yeah, it's an interesting question, really, really is. I mean, again, we'll revisit this later on in the season, I think, because, as I said, there's a bit of unknowns. The more Curtis Jones keeps getting injured, the more I worry for his future, because he could just do with a bit of luck. He could just do with staying fit for the rest of the season and going and showing what he can do. I think he's got the potential to change a lot of minds. He could save us like 80 million quid, I think, if he can just become a good squad player for Liverpool, if nothing else. Can Harvey continue to to continue his development, that would make a big difference. This is what you need. I mean, like Bajcetic, you know, he looks like he's all of a sudden a year ahead of his development. It would be worrisome to start relying on 17, 18-year-olds, but if they turn out to be generational talents, then again, we don't need them to be leaders. What we need. You need to replace Ox and Milner and ultimately Keita, which adds up to about 4,500 minutes a season, i.e. squad players. With more squad players, you don't want to have to buy squad players, because to replace them is going to cost you about 100 million quid, but you're buying bang average footballers to do it. What you want to do is hopefully progress lads into those slots for next to nothing, and then you go and spend 120 million. You go and spend 200 million pound on Rice and Bellingham, but you've got your squad filled out with youngsters.
If you sign Bellingham, you bring Bajcetic in, and you play Carvalho and Elliott. Your oldest player in that four is Elliott at 19.
Yeah, mad, isn't it?
So we would put the money out there for Bellingham's like a freak of nature for all of the attributes he's got, his size and his football development, and apparently his younger brother who's at Birmingham is technically better.
Wow.
So why not get him as well?
God, what shirt did he
have the Bellinghams in midfield. The Bellingham's in midfield today, boys.
Yeah.
But he plays more. I think he plays more advanced than Jude.
I'm all in for that. If you enjoyed that debate, there's 2 more on this week's debate show over on redmenplus.com, which you can get in video form, or you can get it in your native podcasting app, as well as all of our other extra shows this week, like Around the League, Journo Insight, and a whole lot more as well. The Reds have got no league games, but we've got tons of Liverpool content to keep you entertained in that gap. Get closer to Liverpool Football Club and the magnificent city of Liverpool over on Redmen Plus, our Liverpool streaming service. Documentaries, features, more content from the Redmen studio, and you can learn deep and in-depth knowledge from experts, journalists, and cultural features going to get you close to the football club that we all love. Head to redmenplus.com.